This is 28th February. It is important, if you are responsible and feel urgent to understand the truth. I've had many expectations from others to me, and the truth was not spoken much about, but it had been very important. Me as a child, you might see in the other videos, the missing people, leaders, because of death and destruction, was there. It was often asked, is he still available? And then the change in society, and then always looking at the truth, being shocked, and those leaders, of course, were shielded. I was not. I was a poor boy. I was there as a helper. I carried the luggage. And even that was not bad feeling. I saw it later. This is knowledge from 28th. I saw it later, that there was ideology against the people having that much, that those needed to be shielded. And then it was the same. Therefore, this is not the question. What is better? Everyone has little, but there had been security with the leaders there also. And me as a child, I was not asked. I was very little. And now I'm shocked that it is true. The older people wanting to know how come. It had been the difference in education. I do not want to ask that question. It is knowledge and the human nature. There had been very much, and I had been there, but the most I had to do myself. In between, I was thinking about it and asking others. Therefore, the answer is not. And I do not want to show myself to be someone. You cannot do that. Who is then chosen as valid? But since I'm looking into the shocking, stumbling across things, it is not about the leadership. It is not about the money system. It is not about security, and it is not about things that had to do with rockets, with intercontinental weapons and so on. This time it is about a thing I cannot fully understand, but it is surely a thing where the old ones had been, I don't know, it must have been chance. The old ones going to retire. I want to look for excuses. Of course, I know the leaders are in police as well. Yeah, it is possible to plan all that. But this is a thing that is insecurity, that is then security to secure databases, secure the possession. Therefore, I think it is not the question, it is rather why are politicians, of course, from the system, who are angry about the wealthy. I always thought those are different. Strange enough, I did not meet those working people. I did not meet those who had been doing nothing and earning income and spending it. I met them on the sideline. But it was not my peer group. Those have been doing things and then expanding very much for hotel accommodation, for a flat, for example, in a big city. This could cost you 5,000 or 10,000. It was not that I ever was in the situation. I was always, this is strange, of course, on security, nearly social welfare, on the level on that what you need and a little bit more. And this was not planned. It was strange. Now I understand. It had to do with the situation of my mother, the elder. She, as you can see in the other videos, was forced because of unknown things. I'm trying to understand, to counsel privately, and I understood because I was there and we had been very close, and she had nearly not traveled anymore from the 80s on, that there had been something to hinder her. I did not know at the year of 10 or even below that you can earn money by talking, by counseling, with counseling. And this I'm really not doing to apply for anything. It is rather, I understand people have been looking. And then I was, maybe it had been a competition, as it is usual there, between those who want to raise the ladder and, of course, envying the other also to have raised or to have climbed. Then another thing, it could well be possible that tension is there between the cultures. I do not know too much. I explained it in other videos that I was here at this place a loner, in other places not that much, because networking, not too big the group, not too large. Networking is important, but not complaining, but I need to do even more. I see the danger that someone is accused, and it could be, no, it is not my job. I'm not going into negotiating with people maybe who had claimed to know me. I won't do that. It is a thing that could be on the bank level, that is not explainable. There had never been a bank account with me. This is the first shocking thing. But with the rich people. It was not that those had money at home. It had been that those decided to move factories on the stock market, to invest into new building processes and so on. Those had houses and sometimes drivers, but not always. And I had been invited, and I had been very young. Now understanding, I had to leave it there, because in this system, in the environment, I'm not wanted, because people had already planned and then looking for me as someone working for them, not planning and having the say, and therefore it didn't work out. But the shocking thing is, my mother had been shocked, and then it had been said, really, it was the saying, she had developed dementia. She could hardly talk very much. Her teeth had been not fitting the bone anymore. I believed her, but now I understand I couldn't prove that. Therefore, there is danger. Maybe politicians not accepting that it is not an option to look into things. But I'm not very amused. I had to accept it. That is life. My mother had a poor life, even having had, I now understand, being adult, great knowledge, but I have no address, not even a telephone number. And this, of course, looks like exploitation. It's looking like that. But it is not necessarily the case. Maybe I had been a luggage carrier, a boy, but then it is not fitting in the whole pattern. Why had there been offerings for future projects, like developing land? I could work on that. Skyscraper had been built in a country where the structure is different. It is not that I ever believed papers only. I have been there. It is a system where there are differences as well, but there is something like monarch leadership. And the children are often having good cars, and you understand, it is then said this is money from oil. But even there, I had only been on poor conditions, except a few occasions. But those have been working managers, I thought, themselves. There is not that Hollywood style. And that's important. It was worldwide. But if you are having those experiences, and with me as well, I'm glad to have had it. And then not understanding that I could have maybe prolonged it if I only had the money to travel. And that is the first problem. The conditions of my mother really had been, as I said, and this is maybe for some now an accusation, I don't want it, because she never complained. But maybe people did not reach us. I never hear the offerings. If she wanted money, she said, if people had offered, those would have, she was critical, then had, with others, it was not, it was very much in between, even more in between than I do it. With others it had been that those gave away and then left the country. With my mother, she had options, but there is nothing in the house. Therefore, yes, I searched it. Of course not, I did it not there where I was not allowed to do it. We had a trust relationship. And it had always been said, if the times are then better than now, politics is very much not wanting. I thought she had been a trustee, a trusted woman, a bookkeeper, she called herself. And my father, maybe a database manager, no, manager of the storeroom, the storehouse. There's no good English, but it is not that I want to apply. I'd rather don't want it. I saw the pros and the cons. I'm not saying that I do not want it, but I'm not wanting to apply. Not that I did not have the chance. It even had been said very on a very big scale, but then I saw too much danger to even think about it. I never had money on my own. And this now raises more than the alarm. There's much, maybe even hatred, in this country, not from abroad. I had a trustworthy relation being there as a visitor, but I never took something in my pocket. And this had been because my mother didn't do it. Give something, then others take it, and you leave the country. But she was not saying that there's something. Therefore, with me she had been a woman, a lady. And I'm shocked, of course, now. She had been living on conditions but I feel pressed to tell, not to accuse someone. It could be too much. And the damage then would come back to me. I don't want this, of course. And there had been even ridicule then. My mother had been a dreamer. A politician said it. I looked even with the chancellor, and he said it is for you to find out. And I went to the house, not to the House of Prussia. It is, didn't find it. I went to an attorney who said he is also handling some affairs, and he was looking for my name, and it had not been there. Therefore, I thought, ask somewhere else. I went to an embassy. I was quite doing a thing, but having learned to be very cautious what to say, as even at Hanover, you might look an attorney again. He wanted to give my mother something for her servant, being a servant. And I didn't say I'd accept it. I already had learned. My mother had been very shy to take something. She wanted to have it in her own hands. And it could be administration, it could be the decisive entity. And now understanding the saying of politicians mostly can't be valid. But why did others not say, I'm not having an address? I was even not accepted as a prince, and I'm not. A prince is representing its house, this private, or his house. This private, I have no house membership. My mother said you could build an own house, and the kind you then will choose. She had been a leader I know, and I knew, and my father as well, but he was not even considered to be aristocratic. This had been known a little bit, but not too much. Even that had been, but my mother said it is because of military. But I knew he had been a leader, he had been a counselor in a high rank. And the other things you can, not military in active duty, he didn't even like it, but he had been born in the position, and he had not been a friend of the Hitler regime, but he was not against the German-sided interests and not against the Russian-sided interests. It is difficult to say if my mother did say all she knew. There had been tricks inside of the German military, and my mother kept me out of it. Very much tricks to push it in the shoes of the other officer. And this was going on till the 80s. And I do not even want to have too much or no contact. I did not have any contact because of all the quarrel going on. And I kept out of it. I had a little bit contact. But later I learned if you have that, on one side, many groups and quarrels among the groups, and you're not a member, of course you keep out. And there's a tradition in the family, in the own family, with development, civil development of cards and military, but I never found anything. It is left in the destruction, but people ought to have something about it. But I do not want to go to a military, I do not want to go to an aristocratic house. I have been a visitor and I understood this is trickery as well. One said, if you are a member, or one even said, I could make you a member because I have house law. And my mother relied on the civil officer. And she had, of course, a backup, I don't know where. It's important, there are forgeries, even with the friends of my mother. And I'm not applying to that. Even if there is a deadline, I won't accept it because it had been manipulation. It is 100% sure from the Danish side, from the Netherlandish side, from the Swedish side, from Russian, and no one, and from British, and from US American and other American and Australia, and I'm not saying the whole country, of course not. Those have groups with quarrels. And the shock now is there's no side, not the German side, none side I can fully trust. And I need documents, and those documents need to be there before. Those are there before the destruction even began. And this I came stumbling across. This knowledge, not a knowledge, but a sure calculation, makes me very sad. Where are the believers in truthfulness? Where are the believers in truthfulness, faithfulness? The banks have good bookkeeping, the stock market has good bookkeeping, and those bookkeepers are to be trusted, but not politicians. We never trusted politicians, and I did not even want to become a politician, but I was invited, and I said, if it can be done free of any contract, and I had been a visitor in a parliament, I would look there to consider. And it went out that I was even having then assurance it is not for me. But counseling for parliaments, of course, having the knowledge of my mother to ask, I had been a good man in the middle to have the question and then to do it as best as possible. But there's no side I can fully trust. Not one of them. And there had been the speculation, there is something. And I even wrote something like my ethics in business I would have if there is coming up something. But now, considering all this, it is that, a statement of the business belief at that time. And I still think that not too much has changed. It is like the Constitution of the United States says, but this is my idea for the whole world. I do not want to be cited there. I understood it is if you are there. The interests are something like military, not with weapons, but to fight it through. And there had been the talk about things in Florida, and I was shocked that there's even talk about things a counselor, an attorney, would not repeat. Maybe it is something like we would fight for it and see that we get it. I'm not saying that I'm pleased with the whole idea. I always thought it is not sure. It is something like legendary, but no understanding. What did the other men in the middle do? Had those been looking the other way? And then saying maybe he's already dead? Or he's giving it to charity? Charity is something to do. But seeing all the mess, I'd rather try to be a recruiter. This had been speciality to recruit people, and it had been with my grandfather, and even if it is only legendary, the recruiting, like you might consider it had been true. Lepley is not known as that, but it is reality show that you go there and play accordingly. Then afterward, of course, not everything is published, but you do that and people see how you decide. My decision would be first to look into everything, to have trustworthy men, and I could find those, and I had been hindered. And I do not need to prove it. I need people having the knowledge that it is done to make up things the way you assess it beforehand, like a psychiatrist could do it. I think some things in my life can only be explained, not the travel. I think mostly they had been honest people. And this is the thing of the United States, to have the character first. I had been there quite a lot. But you could do it. I forget. I did swear that in my best knowledge, and it had been my best knowledge, I had not been there after a year. But now I understand I had been there once. It is that fast, I did forget it. It was not a voyage. But I wouldn't swear again it is my best knowledge. Now I know something else. And I had been with a judge as a youth in the United States for 1 week. He wanted to understand my character, and nothing came out of it, but he still has the knowledge that it is truthfulness I like. But it is now that I do not apply for anything. I know people who would and could take advantage out of it. And the worst is the wrong doctor's results. This is not bearable. It is not even honor cutting only. It is making the whole doctoring system, I think it is not worth it to make it assessment. Those character diagnoses, like, but then saying schizophrenic, this is only because of the stories. Are you doing it because of the camera light? It is sad. I feel very sad because of it. It is important, I'm not applying for anything. The manipulation could be there. I'm that tired, I could really retire. I could work on, as my mother did. She had care from her, she called her daughter, my mother, the other. And we had secrets not spoken about, but a little bit in between, but not mentioned fully. The birth was difficult. I had to lie down very much, and then you had been born. But it was not said, little or not. There are no photographs of those difficult situations. I was raised, and I now remember myself that one of the nurses, 3 of them had been there. Maybe one is still living. Those had difficulties because of me, even with their responsibility toward the hospital. I think the danger had been there. Now I think, looking back and looking again, and having done much digging into it, I'm only alive because those were stubborn. But one said, the main work, I think, had been on her shoulder. This being raised, I don't do it for money, she said, and I do not want others to do it for money. Of course you need money. I am not a convent man. I will not give myself to charity. I do it, as I said. Free will is what is counting. And I'm very critical, even I did not say it, I was visiting people in the so-called Warsaw Pact states. And I even respected the ambition to have a more righteous system. But having been in the United States, I understood some thought about what is coming out of it. For me, it was not the question. I had to work myself the way through. But there are assets, I'm now very sure, and I had done promises. And then people having technique that is illegal and making me nervous. And this had been with my mother and with my, I don't know, Papa did not talk about it, maybe once. Those have possibility. It was not communicated. I had been in a studio at the university. Later, the students had to sign to be quiet about it. I did not sign. I do not tell too much. I had not been in the experiment field. Yes, Americans are after contracts. I had been traveling and at Cuba. There had been talk about it, and then and people did not know or said they don't know. And it is like a boy having been raised in an embassy. I think what I heard, the learning I did myself, and looking at the German edition of American Science, it was even a little bit more in detail, and being something like an inventor myself, but having not studied at university. Of course, the studying had been there, but not with a grade. And some of the inventors have been inventing their whole life, and people make fun of it if you do not have a good grade. And I'm not after it, because now understanding it is that I could have the wish to go after the untruth that is in a system I don't know. It would be a shock if the banking system already knew, but it could be there's another name. Therefore, I've been giving names to myself that had been mentioned even at the time where there had been fairy tales. I read them myself at the age of 6. There had been the saying that a legendary story goes that there had been Freibeuter, legal seamen, like military, and I officially say always I don't like military, I don't like pirates. This is the country where you have to do it officially, but I could understand, looking like a book reader does, out of the eyes of the figures, I understood. At circumstances, you are a fighter. You are a fighter, you are a pilot, and a military policeman and that on, and I had always learned that it is not for me to think I'm something. And this understanding had been in my education, but I'm not applying for it. I'm really not doing it because I hate it. I have been there, and others have been climbing the ladder, and I would have done it and tried, of course, but it had been that strange that I never learn to be extra nice. I never learned to be doing network to have the better standing. This now I understand. And I understand my mother said she was not wanting to be a member of the British nobility. She once, I thought, it had been in the occasion of Australia, had been offered something. But my mother, the younger, said those build up dream houses. And later there are demands you cannot meet. And I had been offered quite a bit, quite honor positions. I would do it, I still would do it, but I'm not applying. This is different. There has to be a meeting, the want and the acceptance to fulfill it because of a life calling. And the life calling had always been there, but I wouldn't explain it. A leader, what is that? Yes, with leaders I could communicate. I once was invited and it was difficult. He was very long-suffering. He said things, a little bit, I still know them, but this is a different country. And fighting, of course you can do it, but fighting against windmills, this is what I had been doing. And I'm sad that my mother said at the end, I'm very sad she had to say it, that she was not wanting to give me the blame, but she had thought I could have found people to fight with me. And those are differences in the understanding what is possible. I cannot go, really, in this country it's not possible, and go to someone and confront him and say, please say it to me. You could do so standing before the house, but going in a house, in a bank, in a banking facility, you're standing one against 10 others who are versatile to trick you legally. And what I said yesterday is very important. There is the legal possibility to kill me legally. This is very dangerous to be called schizophrenic. Very dangerous. Others could put you somewhere. And I hate politicians. This is not an illness. This is because I saw how it was done in the breaking up of the middle German parts. Even only those I met being privately visitor, but even those have been very much after fulfillment, not breaking things, and then the breaking had been done that you cannot go after them. Therefore, the breaking now, it is done again, that I cannot go after those because politicians could use legal methods. And one legal method is to break me with the help of doctors. I do not want to go too much into it, because I fear that people could overreact. This is my quality, but it is now having been suffered too much, I think. My quality to be not exploding, and even I went to raise my voice and be very loud. I had been controlled, but there's death a little bit toward the belief that the system is wanting to regulate itself, but I cannot do it legally before the court. I won't do it, because that would damage even more. And not behind closed doors, it is something in between. I need first to survive financially, and this, please, not too much, as an author would get it. And it's important you have the time to listen, but if you do not have the time to listen, understand. There had been something I cannot even explain. It could have been people being in disguise somewhere. It had been done at childhood as a prank, and my mother forbid me to be in it, and I never did. To play, yes, in a game that was theater or movie, where the other knew I would disguise as the other, be in a mask. Yes, I did that as fun. But going to someone and disguising, this is breaking the law. But if someone had been somewhere being disguised as me, this, of course, would be criminal. And I hope this was not done. I have no idea where those could have gone. This would be really a shock. And then another shock that the other, of course, yes, he should have written several times and asking what I was doing. And as it is hard to talk about it, it could look like me having another illness, the illness of being afraid of things not there. But you understand, I was really participating in interesting theater and movie experiences for fun. Yes, once I can remember having been a detective. Pocket thieves were looked after, and sometimes there is a disguise necessary. And yes, another time, but not too often. And that time I was looking to find out if my mother was really being accepted as the name she had on an invitation, and I found out people thought it had been her artist's name. And this is not what I was looking for. An artist's name, Victoria. Yes, she was accepted to be an artist, to be in the security, and I'm now shocked. I myself came to the conclusion she is the original, and she could not come out of this protection mode, but she must have been all the time the inhabitor of rights, and those are really there, and please do not give it to state officials, never. Back then I counseled rather, I did not know if she had been the trustworthy woman who then could handle the affairs. This could well be inheritable as well. But please do not give it to state officials that then have the idea everything a noble woman ever had would go, and this could be other things like islands and so on as well. And I'm, of course, very sad. My mother had suffered because of financial loss. I was myself not from the start having an own motor vehicle. I think 26 years I had been when I first had a small car. I think 3,600 mark I could afford. This, of course, is being on a fixed income. 8 mark 50. 8 mark 50. Not very much, being a helper. And then having had a little bit help from the parents. But it's important to understand I never had to complain or could complain because I thought I'd be the son of a respected, and this of course had been very pleasing to me, and it was a little bit consolation because my father is still missing in war. In combat it was not, I think, but it is called in combat, in the war on the Eastern Front. Therefore I'm a little bit very much sensitive. And did not want to be on the Russian side, even being a friend of some of them, having been a friend, and not actively right now. And the British had been critical as well, because Papa was still having nightmares because of the bomb attacks. But I did not accuse anyone or had grudges. But I was still sensitive, and those had been sensitive as well. I had personal contact, having had the attacks in London and so on. Therefore I understood I do not want to have war, but nevertheless have good military. We had been planners, even not being on the first line, for state affairs. And I had good contact with some in France. Therefore this had, and other countries, this had been international, but having had the knowledge to be the son of a diplomat, a respected one, and not a diplomat from today, but something I thought had been networking, merchant, networking counselor in different fields, very much respected, but then with the attacks from the so-called own network. Therefore, I do not want to be put in the field marshal's network. I was having talks, but I did not understand too much. I had to ask my mother, and she did not understand everything herself. And I do not want to be in the network of Bundeswehr and other military. I could be a counselor, and I had been helping to build helicopters and other vessels. And we were somehow with Airbus as well, Messerschmitt, Blohm, but never had any money. I thought it had been charity for the raising up of a new industry. And this is a thing you won't believe. But it had been true. And now people would say her profit then had not been that good. But I now understand it had still been even that. But why was my mother not having any money? If she had taken maybe she would have lost something, and I'm now critical at that point as well. I do not want to take money. I want to have sources that are already mine. And I was looking and not receiving anything. And I'm not accepting the guardianship of British, Netherlandish, and not of the state. It is important to understand that I'd rather stay poor than to lose my honor. And it has been taken by the state, and this is, please keep calm, an attack against everyone who is telling things not believable. And there had been Arabs coming to this country, and those changed. I don't know, maybe having been narrowed as well, and of course I'm no Arab, but having been narrowed as well, so to speak, as being watched. And someone said those are dangerous. I don't know, maybe I'm too considered to be dangerous, and this is critical. What is true? I'm not dangerous, and I think Arabs are not dangerous, but maybe this being narrowed makes you nervous. Therefore, rather it is distant helping. That is good. The East, the Near East around Israel, had been the destination of the travelsman as well. And it had been helping to bring a little bit peace. Had been on, so to speak, both sides. And this was suspicious, had been suspicious, but not for me. I was not asked. I was with the tribe system, and I kept out. And with, I think, Israel, not officially, nothing officially, I think. Or was it? No, I don't think so. And those destinations I did not choose. It had been an American, and he had been critical of Israel and critical of Arabs. And this is known in the merchants networking system. You're critical of everything. Know your people. And this knowledge is now gone. Therefore, I'm needing, I have the urgent need to have someone who's accepting that I'm weak, but not dumb. And this is not prepared. I do not want to prepare something and then apply for a job, because I know there is no job for me. The job had been to counsel. You can't apply for that. You can't do that. I'm even knowing, I'm knowing that my reputation is damaged right now. It is damaged because I had been to places, destinations of the travelsman, even the Kremlin, or the Kremlin, and even the White House. And knowing a little bit, there are always people looking for good solutions, and to know each other is important. I never had been a contract, was having a contract with anything. And I asked, maybe some thought this was leading to a contract, but no understanding it is damaged right now. It could be cleared, but this is difficult. Then there had to be something doctors don't do, but it has to be done. Doctors have to accept those cannot give character diagnosis. It had been even that. And the diagnosis is schizophrenic, Now that's ridiculous. First I thought, forget it. It is something another doctor said as well, forget it. It is only the opinion of this Gertrudenberg. And it's important not to put it that lightly. First I thought it is an error. But now I know and I'm fully aware the damage is there. And it is damage for some, not for the White House and or the Kremlin, but so to speak, yes. Those have many people doing networking. Maybe 100 or 1,000 or more. And who is going to do so? Is it Berlin? I don't know. It could well be that it is something no one wants to have. It is only there because someone is lazy. I'm not lazy, but the whole thing must be filtered. The doctors get the idea. I'm stupid. I'm with a character not worthy to be called healthy. And hopefully there is not someone else going around. This is detecting by suspicion. I do not know it. In the youth there had been someone, and he said, oh no, I'm looking a little bit like you, but I don't tell you what I do. And others had hated his lifestyle. He had been having too many girlfriends. And now I'm very suspicious. If there could have been two looking like me and one of them tricking the other, then it could be an evil intelligence behind it. But this is not known. It is Sherlock Holmes communicating with Watson. And I'm ashamed that much of this system. Not that I'm really ashamed. It is not legally possible. I cannot choose. I cannot move. I have not the money even to go to another city. I'm, because of too less income, at a debt. But not that I couldn't come out of it, but only if 20,000 are there, then I would be out of it. But now, or even a little bit more, it is important I do not take money. You understand? I'm not after money. This would not be a right thing. I did not even have the chance to help my mother at the end. There, something in that area, maybe 10, 20, 40,000, would have helped me to get home with a taxi every other day. And this only people can do who have income above the fixed income. You understand? The men I had been with had been stockbrokers and the owners of companies and wealthy or not, that had never been the topic. I think it had rather been the topic to be honest, and people had been very much friendly and polite with them because wanting to be near them. And I once had been asked if I want to be there and have the benefit to be with the top man, and I'd rather have my father. He was left in the war. And it is not something people believe anymore. You understand? With the saying, you're schizophrenic, I cannot even pronounce it right, you're schizophrenic. With that saying, the whole family history is maligned. The others do not even know much about my mother. She had been, I thought, like other widows as well. And I could accuse myself, but my mother didn't. She said, I'm now understanding you are being narrowed, very much pressured. I don't know how she came to understand. It started at school. Even Mama said then, yes, I understand. I'd never thought school teachers would do it. Of course, school teachers are humans as well. And it had to do with the Nazi era. This is not my making it up. To be against it, and this is not even I want to have applause. To be in the resistance, even on the German side, not against German interests, and in favor of Russian interests because of former good relationships, business as like, and as well, security. It had been a good, as my mother said, a good relationship with different interests, but the trust had been broken. And I understood people had been arguing about the war and you couldn't say it. I'm not in favor of one or the other side. I always had to defend myself not to be in the mainstream. And now I'm doing it again, and people maybe don't like it, but I'm in the need to do it, to find someone who is accepting. I can even now understand that there is possibility to look at me at something like a risk. I want to be left alone and find out and then have the assets. I've been trained to do it like the others. I don't know how much there is, but false rumors ruined our standing. There must have been rumors because of the possibility of my mother to give funding. No, she didn't give it herself. Others did, but that she could give her word that some idea would be looked into. She would voluntarily live like a nun, like an ascet. In German, an ascet, like someone who is willing to chastise him or herself. And this is ridiculous. I often heard my mother said, in the future you will have a good income. I had been at school till the matura, till the high school diploma, and then of course wanting to study, you would then have had a good income. And then my mother understood all the trouble, too much opposition. I thought it is as it is. Having had the basis, it is not the belief others thought. Of course, the belief had been there. The belief in that what is good. To believe in God is there nearly with everyone, I thought. And if you are of that quality, I thought, you had to accept. You had to accept that people are not in favor. This is not that I want to be a troublemaker, but the false rumor had been there again. And this had been because of Mama saying, Mama said to me at that age, it had already started, I raised you to raise your voice if you see injustices. And if you learn it that way, this is my mother the elder again, if you learn it that way, then at school, and this I was not. Say cheese, you would say in English. Therefore, I had to be commanded to look happy. I was not. I saw the difficulty, always conflict, because my mothers and my papa raised their voices if there had been something they thought that was not to be tolerated. You understand? It had been the time where it could work out. This is the whole time my mother talked about because of knowing the eyewitnesses herself. And now I understand she had been very old. This, till 170 years, was a legendary telling, and people did not say not to have envious people, that those then had been that old, and this is not a guarantee. And she said herself, because of the stress in her life, she wouldn't reach that high age, and I think with me it is the same, but theoretically, and I think I saw that an old, respected leader. And I feel, of course, but it is private responsibility. But I'm not applying for something to show myself. Is something else. It is for you to understand people had been tricked with false appearances. And this really is true. False appearances you can trick. Even this photograph. You can trick this photograph. And then you have something with me. Then you have something like digital manipulated photographs and even moving pictures. This is possible. And there is not always a way to prevent it. It is me giving you a hard time if you're looking at this moving picture, because it is boring. And me not wanting to give you something that is sophisticated, otherwise you'd think the content is important. This time it is the pattern, the whole pattern. I am not complaining because I do not want to complain. My mother was not wanting to complain, and now I understand. I even showed you wrong pictures. This is someone looking like Mama. Those are enlarged, and I now understand this was not communicated. Maybe that is Mama. This deliberately had been in the style of the Netherlands. And the lady that had been, or two ladies, had been a soulmate to my mother the elder. I blurred out those do not accept me seeing something of importance to the world. Of course, to them it is important, but those do not want to talk about this family history. Maybe it had been too stressful, and me saying that, those say it is schizophrenic, and I'm stuttering. I do not want to make fun of myself, but others do. Therefore, I do not pretend that I am respected. I do not pretend I'm respected. And I do not want to play like at the theater to have then a replacement. It was once offered to me. This is disgusting to my mother and me. My mother did not hide. She always had then a good clothes, and the attitude had been with dignity. I'm looking for the real picture of Mama. This is my mother the elder again. But Mama, as a school teacher, she was tricked by her own peers. She did not say so to complain or even to say that clear was not inside of a worldview. It had been accepted that there had been difficult times after World War II, but I myself understood those did not tell everything. And this, in my worldview, is trickery. At the time, I don't know when it had been, in the 60s somehow, each went its own way. At least I did not know about, I was at an invitation, invited, but I was not interested, I was much too young. And I did not know about any importance, but now I understand. With me, the authentication, or the authentic thing, is of a high priority. Sorry, this is not deliberately, but it is there. And this is not as others do it. Of course, in the media, you won't leave stuttering in the newscast. You would take it out. I did it through. Those are my own teeth, the first ones. But I was having trouble with the doctors working on it. And my mother as well. And I understood, even there, too many problems. And my mother did even say she had to expect that every maintenance work could have had some deliberate not working as good results. Yes, she once said, people do it. There had been someone building up furniture, and my mother was quite stressed to look if he was doing it right. And this you won't accept as the truth if you're not from this country in the years after World War II till the 80s. Maybe it could start again. Having an own group, and they're working better than in the other. And I was not aware what group my mother had been considered to be, in what group she had been, but now I understand it must have been aristocratic nobility. My mother had been doing counseling herself between houses. And I thought, and others said so, why do you do it? Those bring danger to this place. And I thought this is blown out of proportion. There had been one nobility house, and there is a house law and a marriage between two houses, and I myself had been counseling. And now I understand it is a shock. People came because I did not know of any standing. And this I cannot hide. I'm not in the belief that in my house, if I had any, there is, of course, quietness and secrecy. It has to be there, but not too much as others want to have it. You understand, to accept there's difficulty is a thing to be in the philosophy, in the philosophic, I don't know how it is in English, in the worldview of the company. I think the house would be a company. And I was having offers to work for those kind of companies, houses, maybe of aristocratic origin, but it was not fulfilled. I knew there had to have been a contract to work for someone. Without a written contract, I thought you won't have a contract at all. Of course, there could be a contract at that time, but I wouldn't do it. It is much too dangerous to do work and then not knowing what the responsibility is. But I had offers later, like my mother did it, to do it for money and not for, it was not charity. I thought so. It was not charity, I think. I'm quite sure. But it was hidden from me. And then I did not believe that the people who had been at the doorstep had been even that what they had been saying, because having been trained, there are people, and this is sad. It is not laughing. It is rather, I don't know if I should laugh or cry. It is really that there had been people playing other people. It was not that often, but I knew there came some people who had a standing. Yes, and traveling then, I don't know if I should say being politicians, a congressman. Not too many of them, but being there, I wasn't interested at that age. I already knew there came a man building up a police force. This then I thought had been too dangerous. It was this Grenzschutztruppe. This was too dangerous. Therefore, better don't do it. I'd left that open. But I was in dangerous situations because of that. People coming to this place, doing such a dangerous job, like building up security. And then I'm now shocked knowing a little bit about the law that is there on the level of United Nations and not having any security. I, of course, can't do it. In other countries, there is, of course, not even thought about the possibility not to have it. First-hand security with police, first-hand with real intelligence. If you have intelligence in this country, it had been from of old. I had never any contracts. I tried to have. A real contact is with answering and going back and forth till the time of my mother. A real contact is to be accepted as to be reliable, and I'm being laughed at. I accept even that, to have the full acceptance that this is a life a little bit different, or even more, but nevertheless, I'm not judged by appearance or by stuttering. And I'm not being judged because of this not prepared movie. This is private. It is to show myself, and it is really important that it is not even prepared. People could make this photograph and then make a mask out of it. And this would be illegal. Therefore, if you see someone, ask him. Not look only. It is not enough. You need to and fro. You need much inside knowledge. There are evil people, very evil ones, even high-ranking politicians. They have robbed some keys. This is illegal. And there's a book and there are letters missing. I cannot go to the police. This right now is a problem. I cannot go to police. What to report? There is a book. What one? I don't know. I only know there is a gap. What letter? I only know the hands like it looked like. I cannot say where it was from, and there are things missing. And it could well be that people are tricked in the Netherlands. I cannot write there. because I do not have. And it is only suspicion. And it is then lunatic to think I'm important. You understand? This is really the danger, and I'm explaining it to you, that you understand, even to Russia someone could go. Yes, I had been there, and then someone is after it, but I can't write there. What to tell them? Therefore, if he is not by chance going, of course not. Why should a leader do that? And I'm not proud that I know a leader. I'm not saying I'm on this level. This is not a question. If you know leadership, this is not a question. The question is important, of course, if he is on his business. And then people work on future options. That could be important, but I cannot even write to the White House. Yes, Washington, I cannot do it. What to tell? There's a difficulty with doctoring? This is not possible. I cannot write there to name the people I'm accusing. And this is really true. There had been in the past an invitation, but I did not see it. The man said, I invited you, and someone else came. And I said, please look after it. He said, oh, this is not that important. Now it is. Now it is. With that you can do the damage with one invitation. I said, okay, if you need someone to play in the football team, he can do it. Or if he is on a hunting trip to carry, yes, I did something like that, to carry some load or some rucksack. But if you do not know it, at one occasion I understood there is, by mistake, going the invitation, and I did not even know who gave it to someone else. Was it taken out of the letterbox by a friend of my so-called brothers? I cannot even say those are brothers, but those are, I think, in the paper. I know, very suspicious because of the security my mother most likely had to have built in the hole. My mother is the oldest, and then Papa, but he wasn't talking about it. Do not talk in front of children is a good thing to follow. Not everyone had been like me, and I'm not being proud of myself to be the one that had been taken and the others not. One with visitor, I called him, he said, so it is important to be on a travel, and then father and son. I called him then, of course, not son, because he is the elder. And he said, you will have trouble because of this, but it is not me to decide. This had been the respected mama. And it is important people know doctors can be wrong. But the official standing is doctors put it in the paper, then this paper, if important, is scanned, and then it is in a file internationally. If there is any interest, people look, and what will they see right now? A lunatic, someone crazy, and this is, of course, this is not possible. 3 times, 4 times. It looks like many doctors see it the same. If there's someone else from time to time going to a doctor, once in my youth, there had been the doctor calling me by the wrong name. Yes, it's possible. A doctor has 1,000 people going to his doctoring office. But the other then is forging, because the doctor calls your name. Good day, Mr. So-and-so. And the other, if he wants to be a con man, he's of course to be blamed. Therefore it is possible, but then it is criminal. And I see the danger that people believe this false doctor's reports, do not believe me, and I'm then in a really, really even more dangerous situation. Maybe high-ranking politicians, and I cannot blame myself because it is suspicion. And that suspicion is in the diagnosis to be a proof. This is in the diagnosis to be a proof. This is important. If there is then politically the want to give me a bad name, it is even more possible me explaining, maybe then I am someone making up to be Sherlock Holmes, and inventing, maybe this I should do as a business, inventing stories and that on, and hopefully this is not in consent or not in accord with the Kremlin and the White House both. And this of course is more than ridiculous, but I'm doing that. This is artificial, ridiculous. No. But you understand, you can talk about things, very sad, very solemn, but putting it like being ridiculous. This is not. This is not. The nature I had in my thinking, I do not want to assess if I have it or not, but I learned. In the seniors residence, I studied the life of people. You know the biography, and I did it, of course, not officially. And then you read the papers, you learn about the conspiracy theories, and then you have inside knowledge, and there is, of course, from time to time a criminal deed, not possible without a conspiracy before. And then understanding the world is more secure every day, it is digitally, everything is looked after. It could be positive. But doctoring, to be at the doctor's office, not by free will, who accused me that it was broken in my house? And then there stood someone taking me through the doctors. An attorney can't help, because he says it is a doctor's problem. You understand? I fear for the life of some people in this country. It could be well that this is not politically, that it is made up by people not being the doctor. You understand? If someone is looking like me, maybe he's then going and is confessing. And this could be a gypsy. I met gypsies, not all are honest. I like the honest ones. Those are there. And those play identical, twins, or even more. This is possible, but I'm not doing that. If someone then has the face, my face, he could make it up out of this movie. And if he's doing that, he could be the evil man with the blue hair. I once met more than one man has blue hairs, the other is not evil. And he could have had the meeting of someone looking like me and allowing him. Those then would be two working on the forgery. But I never gave the allowance. This is evil to disguise and to be a con man to others. But maybe, yes, then three are needed. One being the victim, that is me, and two others playing the trick. Therefore, please be aware, I'm not working with intelligence. I'm not. I never did. I subscribed to keep out of it. And I said it on a plane trip. there where the islands have special inhabitants to the border of Russia. And it was not directly, but then as well, a visit there. Yes, of course, I kept my word. People ask me because of the knowledge I as well have, but it is a knowledge from book learning, and the thousands, millions of detective-loving people. Yes, I had quite conversations with people wanting to talk about stories, war stories, military police, and that on, even not having been, never had been at a school to that profession, of that profession. And the knowledge is there because I worked on it to have a good life, a secure life, and to prevent falsehood. But it is important that I could write a book about the mafia. I could do that understanding that the excuse is there is not a system of justice, and then building it up parallel. But it is not legal, and I do not like it. Something is going on in a parallel mood. And this is total suspicion, because I don't know. This is not an artist's name, but for security reasons I have to say so. And this is artist's work. This is art. For security reasons I have to say so. But do you see the solemn thing behind it? There have been really doctors' accusations, and there is really the danger that people want to drag me into something. This is not allowed. This is evil. There is no blessing on it to work that way. I won't do it. Maybe two others, or even more, want to be in my disguise. I think this wouldn't work out, but it could work for quite a time. I don't know it, but there had been in the theater 3 sharing one character, and it all had been done with masking technique. And this is not secret. You can go, or you could go to YouTube, and there had been holiday artists learning programs, and it is said there is even the possibility to buy something like artificial skin. I'm not having the money to try it. I'd be interested to do it again. Then you look differently, and you could copy someone. But I hate the idea to do it. It could be a trick to bring you into prison. I feel myself being surveilled illegally. I never accept it. Maybe like a honeypot. I was asked once to be something like a honeypot. It had been 30 years ago. I said no, and I won't do it. My character is holy to me, even if it is maligned. But if people do so, we have enemies, enmity. In the security of the state, there is none of that allowed at all. It is not allowed to have identical twins if you are not identical with them. And it had been in the movies, and I don't know if people did so. Those playmates had looked alike, because then going to the hairdresser, first of all having had a similar shape of the face, but then the whole thing was done with hairdressing, and it is not forbidden to have a little bit makeup and the like, but the rest could be forgery. Therefore, this is about forgery, the possibility, and the warning. And if it is not a warning, then it is about the technique. And there is a problem. I don't know why. The problem, I want to start my smartphone to show you a thing that I hope cannot be done in digital changing, but maybe there is intelligence on the market to change even something in a mirror. There is much work on, for years. It had been in the papers, computer newspapers, and people always had been trickery, liking people, always. It is nothing new. And I hate the idea that the system is now wanting to bring you into contract and narrow you in on that, and I don't like it. I would do contract if I could work on it in a fair manner. Only then. I'm after truth, and it is necessary to understand this is necessary to have good policing with people who trust in me. This is evil from those doctors to give me wrong diagnosis. But maybe those are not evil, only privately spoken about, maybe only not knowing. Understand? A doctor who is writing down his fantasies, he's not evil, he's only not good. But privately, I say, it is at the end something of evil to have the problem. Okay? And with me, it is to understand that even politics have the idea to use tricks. Therefore, it is politics. Therefore, I don't like politics. Merchandise is not with tricks, but with strategy. And I'm not applying for anything. I'm not going to party to be a deputy or a congressman. I want to have some insight, to understand what's going on. That is all. That is all. I'm that much into the history of my parents, understanding that those had not enemies because they wanted to have it, but because of the times. And those enemies played even nice. And this is now a shock to see the pattern that those who have been nice and friendly have been enemies. And this is not to be accepted. This is not to be accepted. I could work with other groups, but only on the level of respect, and there's no respect. To do it that way, that someone thinks he's doing the right thing. Yes, I met people who had bad eyesight, and one said, I gave you money, I don't know, maybe a gift of 100 mark. $100 would be better, but because it is nearly double of 100 mark and 100 euros, even more. But it's not about the money. Giving it to someone and then supporting the unknown. Really, I don't know. I would telephone and accuse him or her, but if I knew, maybe I would even file a report. I don't know. I asked the man, he said, I don't know. Maybe he's, if someone is asking, being a charity man. He did not say how much he gave, but he said, I did give you something. And this is very sad. I heard of it, that people are begging churchmen and going to places where there could be help to the poor. Therefore, there is no place anymore because of the begging, not meddling, begging. This is not begging. This is explaining that I myself doing detective work, and even with the danger to be ridiculed again. To be ridiculed again, you understand? And it is, I think of the past, that there had been really the accusations in the papers, and I asked people who said yes, those securities had theater and filmmaking people among them. The security of the Middle German part, or Eastern, political Eastern part, had very great, no, not great, but numerous memberships. I don't know if it had been great, I can't say so. But I had been in a movie that was taken even there. Therefore, I was warned, do not be there and then become a member, and I didn't. And I liked it, to think about security, police work, where then the ability of undercover would be there. Undercover is necessary for, maybe it is legal or not, I don't know. It had been another country. But now I see the danger that it is done privately. This is not allowed. I do not want to be in the area where there are people, I'm not sure who they are. It's important that you understand the danger was known in the Cold War. Politicians even said so, that those would change the outfit, maybe wearing a wig. And now I don't know, because I'm not in the position. Having ever thought it could be necessary, and I do not want it. I want to have first the insight. If there is any knowledge, I do not want to be ridiculed. Understand? I do not want to be ridiculed. And I'm saying this could help to see how I look like. But it could be a thing. You see, I'm looking quite ugly. But it is maybe even that possible to change with artificial intelligence, and maybe because of that you won't trust the documents I'm showing you, and it is me starting to do the same. Therefore, the inside knowledge is more important. Yes, I now have to see the fact that even the photographs in the album had been not forged, but had been taken in a reenactment. My mother had a co-worker, and she took responsibility because of a fault the co-worker did. The co-worker had been forged a document. And politicians would go and make a problem out of it. But it is not in my worldview to be in the political confrontation. If Americans would do so, it would be high treason against truthfulness. But if Hessen people do so, it would be the same high treason, because using something and then making a problem out of it, not knowing what exactly had happened. There are other things as well. Some police said, we cannot change it. There's a wrong entry 30 years ago. And there is not the interest to change it, even if it could be possible, because it is not of that high demand. You understand? I have to go into the possibility that there's already politicians going on wanting to damage me. I'm not a politician. And I'm not begging for mercy. I'm saying you are in a high treason situation. If you're using something you don't know, that I already know. I know about this document that had been done, as it had been said, to try out the technique of con man. And then a man gave his name for the documents, and then he misused it. And this was to be punished. You understand? Someone working in that security field, and I heard it because there had been trouble. But this is an uncle. He was having trouble as well. But it is not to me. I'm not a politician to pay for anything that someone in my relative, among my relatives, is doing. A politician sometimes has to defend. Therefore, I'm not in the position to ever become a politician because of this strange surrounding. You see, my mother was charity, not liking, but it had been necessary. She had been doing it. And Papa as well, and Mama as well. And then there are people not misusing, but using it. And then it is used for the interest of others to even give more problems to it. Therefore, I'm never going after the idea, I think never. I cannot say 100% sure, to go after politicians, to make a problem out of it. I rather see the danger that politicians will defend themselves beforehand. Yes, politicians are doing that, to defend themselves beforehand. They can even look into a file and say things later to be proven, but the damage is then done, proven to be misunderstanding. But this doctor's diagnoses, I'd rather be open about, because it is 100% sure if there is something of interest to the so-called audience of the world. I hope there isn't, because I feel private. Then this is misused, and politicians are working beforehand. But this should then clear that I'm not after anything. To apply for something could, of course, be what others would do, and therefore I'm assessed, or the calculation to my behavior is to do it myself. I cannot think about that idea, knowing already too much about the politicians' work. And this is rather very sad. I do not want to blow it out of proportion, then there is too much wealth. But I'm not saying I'm declining. Nothing is there, nothing. This is rather a thing or two or three that is only being taken advantage of. And this is not right, because it must have been a conflict in the morals of the Netherlands, in the morals of Great Britain, in the morals of other places, but maybe not too much. I don't think I'm that known. No, I don't. Not too much. I'm feeling like don't knowing if laughing or crying. I've been very young, and then I rather have been warned. Then you have no privacy anymore, and I'd rather I've been sufficient. If it is that much of negative effect, then I'd rather don't do it. And if it is that dangerous, I'd rather don't do it. But no understanding, it could be dangerous even without having had the ambition. It wasn't asking from others to be in the field of behind the scenes working staff somewhere in the political field. I'd been a helper without a pay. Not too much. And I never would go into the idea to accept anything that has to do with it. I already asked. I want to be free. I'd like the idea to be free like the Americans have it very often in their slogans. To be free. I'd like the idea to have security. And I think it is the obligation. I don't do anything away from it. But not knowing how this will lead. You understand? There had been invitations. I never knew if it had been Paris or London, not being too much of interest to me. I was following a businessman or a woman, but I don't do it right now. I don't do it. This is ugly. First, I need income. And this, please, out of free will, out of charity. And then, after some time, maybe not too long, I look into it again. I'm not applying, I'm asking to do the right thing and to wait till this can be understood. Because I myself am understanding there is nearly every contact now to be looked into. It is strange. There had been the support for the future generation of politicians, and it had been the character grading. And this was very interesting, and it was without looking at the faces. It was looking at the circumstances. But strange enough, is it dangerous or not? I don't know. It was without money. We never get money for charity work like that, to look into the well-doing of other funding. Funding, of course, with time. This had been time it was, but the funding was only with me. I don't expect anything from my helping, for my helping the mother and the two mothers, but it could well be the expectation, and maybe even more, of the mothers and Papa. Yes, I have not a better picture of Mama than that. And I'm not expecting anything from this character of Dennis. I'd rather wouldn't do it that way again. I wouldn't do it that way again. I was too young, and others pushed me out of the thing. And this does not mean that I wouldn't, but it would push someone else then, and I understand. It had been holiday, amusement, working amusement with me. Yes, really. The first series, my ears had been different. Those had a little bit correction afterward, but I won't do that again. And there are filters, but maybe the others are not allowed to, because of contracts, to talk about it. And then someone came from the Netherlands, and those had built a club, and I said, you could start to give me a little bit of your because I was already in need. And those said no, that they rather do something else. Therefore, not everyone is wanting to do charity. And of course I expected not. I'd like it, not too much, but like you do with someone you want to support, maybe you do it or not. I would do it if I would be persuaded, and I don't know if this is the way. But with me it is not to have the best way, it is to do something. I somehow have stress because I don't know where this is going. I do not want to be in the trap my mothers warned me about. If you are around the world, as I had been, it is that you have to stay free. Otherwise, you need one side to support you. Because to be on a side does mean you have the enemies this side or this group is having. And this is maybe not possible all the time to stay free. But right now I have not the basis to decide something. I cannot decide anything. I don't know. It is that was quite sure to be something that did not went that well. The whole building process, I had been 2 years old, the whole building process had been like someone did not know how to build a house. This had been called misplanning or working not the right way. Maybe the workers came from some other place. You understand? It is sometimes a thing looking like not possible. That is not that a complicated house. It is not that complicated, this house. It is quite similar. But why have there an opening and then now it is closed? You could plan it beforehand. And even that is no different. You understand? It is a thing to say this is strange, or to say it is maybe now the possibility for conman, and this is not far-fetched. My mother warned me. My mother is not there anymore. That people could trick me. And I thought it is from the old days that children are warned. Be aware who it is you're talking to. Look at not only the ear and his eyes, but consider there could be contact lens. No, this my mother didn't say. She said, look in a book. Yes, at the library there had been a book. No, she said, in the library you find more. And then the topic was not even addressed, but mentioned. And this had been the whole training process. It was me wanting to learn and looking for topics. And then I came to the library and saw how it is possible to change the appearance. And for example, I went home and said, oh, this is not possible. And my mother said it had been possible before. But it was a secret technique. More she did not say. But maybe she saw the picture and said, oh, that it is done now. And understood. My mother had been in a club, in a group, like a Volksbühne as well. Nowadays, I never was there. Maybe it is there and too expensive. And I learned by being very curious. By being very curious, I learned what is possible. And this now, that I had been after the first. But I gave myself a little bit courage to look this way. Not to give up. But then a second and a third time. False doctoring attendance. I don't know to whom I could go. Not to another doctor. This is ridiculous. You don't go there, don't have the problem, and then go to another doctor and say, I have no problem. Can you please make clear I have no problems? And the doctor is saying, you have no problems, but you have the problem with the problem that is no problem. This is not a joke. Maybe the dentist club is there. Oh, this is not for you again? No. Dennis had been about a funny boy, I think. I can be funny. Yes, to learn. To see the funny side of life, or the more amusing side, can be trained, and even English could be better. And even that, the security system, to keep the prison safe, can be trained by trying to break out. And this I don't do, because it is not necessary. I am not entangled. I'm not entangled. I understand there is something, and I need help to make it clear. They had been playing before, it was very often, maybe 90%, in a movie. Then there had been the talk about possible friendships. But I think the friendship that had been there is now not there anymore. You cannot have it 30 years frozen. Then it has to start again. And I'm not saying that I'm not looking for something new, but I'm very not only cautious but alarmed that now if people are interested, it could be false interest. It could be false interest, and this is the most difficult thing. I'm not after the idea that nobility is desirable. Even a king wouldn't draw me to him. No. Having understood, of course, even not knowing that the rank of my father I knew could ever be accepted as be on the king's level. Now I understand it could be in the East, even that, but it is leadership, working responsibility. And coming home, I had not even the chance to talk very much or at all about the being raised for quite a time. He put very much effort in it. And it nearly got extinct. It was erased because of the time in between. But I remembered now, because working on it, that it was important. It had been very important and gave me help. Decision making, the art of make decisions. And it is a thing to be desired as a leader. And then not being able to go back and look at the circumstances. The world had been a little bit different there. Traveling is expensive. And I feel somehow obligated, first of all, to correct it in this part of the world, even if it is not known in the other. And it is necessary that your help is there. Maybe you are not that rich to send me a little bit money, but it is even not good to send too much. I do not want to give an amount, but please not more than $100 or so. Maybe 10 is enough. Maybe every month, but this is a wishful thinking. If I knew my circumstances, I would give 100. But someone else who knew my potential would give 100,000. But this is, I think, suspicious for the state, because the state is someone like an enemy. No, not the state, but ideologists. You see, in the state there are parties. And I think it is not the Communist Party, it is rather Social Democrats, or it is rather the AfD. No, it is rather the Green Party. Don't know about them. The Freie Demokraten. Those are all party names, political party names. The potential I knew had been of that dimension that others would have given me their inheritance. But this is now gone, theoretically, in the files. Yes, bosses of that standing look into the files of secret services. Please do and accept that it is forged. From the middle, maybe, or from the start. Of course, it is not forged. I'm not allowed to say so. This is artist's work to say so, this way and the other. You understand? I wouldn't say it if there is not suspicion. But I'm not allowed to say so. Therefore, this is deliberately... It's not funny. There had been potential and people would have invested in me, but why didn't those do it? First of all, my mother said, this is your workplace. It could have been Europe or America, and the interest had been from other places as well, but people don't do it. There's no talk about money. I'd never said to others that the parents had not been able to afford my tuition. I did not know that it came out that way. They gave me a little bit, but it was not enough. But to complain to others would break their reputation. But now I understand, being myself at that age, it isn't. I can explain the whole circumstance after World War II to be pressure. Papa had been problem after problem. Papa, the raising... no, this is not Papa, but he looked similar. I'm not having the proof that it had been delivered, but this is a kind of discrimination people knew because of what Papa had been. And people could say, Papa is responsible himself, I don't know. I don't know, but if others say so, but if someone else says so, then it could be or not. This is free speech. Maybe not. Yes, it is free speech to say that it is his opinion. Today, I wouldn't do it that directly. But I'm not saying it is his responsibility. I'm rather saying it had been, this Papa, it had been the idea of some that Papa meddled in too often. Papa meddled in too often in the affairs of others, because the others asked him, but nevertheless, he was meddling in the affairs, helping him. I don't know if that would help me, because the files are that sophisticated that others wouldn't listen. Others wouldn't listen. In this country, a doctor's word is sad enough, worth it. This is very sad, because doctors said to me they don't want to be judges, and they can't do it. They can't do it. Doctors are not able to be judges. The mama, doctors are not able to be judges. And it is that maybe you are coming to the same conclusion. I'm sick. Okay. Maybe you're sick also. But to do it in a file and to force me, this is illegal. And if it is legal, then people should know. But I'm not interested to make an affair out of it. I'm not interested in it. I do not work with the Kesterhäuser Institute, because those left me alone. Those left me alone all the years. This is too late. I need people who accept the fact that doctors have no say, not at all. Do not believe if someone is saying someone is lunatic, or someone is schizophrenic. Don't believe it. Look at him yourself, but maybe you will find out very fast. I myself have stopped to believe if someone else says so, but there are people showing it to have tics or to have explosions, and this then is seen maybe only after 2 or 3 days, but with me this is very sad. I do not want to applaud myself or to give myself good credit, but I was always known to be long-suffering, and now I'm a little bit stressed. But not that I am kicking someone at the door or so. I saw it with others, therefore I know the danger of the strange things. Maybe a doctor is putting it out of a box and then using it. Maybe it is possible that he is even thinking this is good to pay the bill for the hospital. I don't know. Yes, this could be. The doctors are asked not to do it too lightly, maybe to warn a little bit more, and then maybe those are listening to witnesses who are not reliable. But this is not good. I learned. And I do not trust the courts. I do not trust the courts. Those are involved anymore. This is not good. I'm not saying those are not good at all. But this is not a judgment about others. But this is critical. If a system has it, someone else should correct it. Of course there have been complaints, but then people think it isn't that important. What happened? He was having some hospital stay, and after all he's responsible for his family, with whom he is bonding. And I want to explain, this is special. Of course I'm responsible to what people. I bond myself, I put myself a network, but I did not choose it. My mother had a heart for, she said it herself, for the children, not disabled, but who had some need. And we had been raised to be philanthropic in the Christian way. I don't like it too much anymore because it had been misused by others. The siblings, the so-called siblings, didn't do it. I'd rather see the danger that those now pressured as well. And I'm not giving excuses. I'm not giving excuses. Those are weak. But that is it. I don't like the idea to... No, I don't do it. I'm saying this is my mother. This is my mother. Two mothers. If the court does not know it, the court is deciding on a wrong basis. And I do not want to see politicians to mingle in it. Politicians have been pressured against my mother. I need help. If there's a relationship, those already should have said so, those noble hosts. I had never been a greeting card to Christmas. I never had a greeting card to my birthday, the birthday in the papers. Yes, it is total silence in the correspondence. Yes, I never had a greeting card to Easter or holidays. No written invitation to any nobility house. And now I understand, maybe the postage did not work? No, I can't say so. Because not receiving anything back, or did someone be the wrong man in the middle? Therefore, please give me not only a call, but a sure sign that you had some contact, then it was on me. Who could have done so? Hopefully not someone I had counseling with, like someone doing paperwork. For nobility houses, there had been something 1, 2, 3 times, not that I took too much heed. It had been on the sideline. And then a politician was allowed to do this kind of work. But this is, of course, something he should have come every time. I think he didn't do anything. No one is allowed to do contract. This would be sneaked into it if he had done so. I can't do anything about it. If, for example, a state attorney would bend it and say he now can sign, the damage is done. It is not in the will of the forefathers that someone else than me is doing work in the line of the forefathers. I think so. I won't think a politician should be allowed, or some duke. There are several dukes there even now, or acting dukes. I never accepted to be a duke. This is a contract too. Yes, you sign a contract if you take in a position. You could be an acting duke even without an ancestry, if you're talented. But I never had been. So, therefore, please be very aware that something had been going on, and I'm now suspicious to different sides, even to the people with blue hair and yellow hair and green hair. Yes, those extra colors have been there in the circus. And it is important to understand there had been plays and jokes 14 years old, 15 years old, and this is not an error. I would do it again. But this is very solemn, thinking about the police not asking me back. I want it. The asking back. A conversation is needed to have an understanding. I asked if there is any security concern, and even now, police is not asking back. Therefore, people think it is okay to be called diagnoses, and not an asking back, not even then. Therefore, it looks like I'm nothing. Consider that. And you are something if you have legal rights. And this should never been taken with doctor's diagnoses. And it is not taken, but it could be bent that way. It is not taken because the follow-up is not to lose it, but it could be bent, it could be tricked. And this is again the warning, and this time with a weak explanation. I say this is not prepared, and there had been stuttering, like me being very tired. And this is from time to time, having had a bad sleeping time. And this could come from electromagnetic interference. My mother suspected it could have been done deliberately, because she was having enemies in the field of the teaching and in the field of the market of school books. And my mother said, because she worked in the field of merchandise, and I thought that is now over. It had been at the time when there had been a new market after World War II. There had been the black market. My mother was not in it, and I did not know if she had any wealth. My birth had been quite expensive, therefore she should have done something before to earn it. You understand? She said I earned it, and I was sad I had been that expensive, and then had been even weak. In my youth, I was a little bit weaker than others, but not that my mother's... Yes, my mother said I wanted to be a little bit more stronger, but I was accepted. I was not pushed away because of that, because my thinking ability was asked without being accepted at school. They had bad grades, low grades. Okay? This is not good, but I want to represent myself like I am. Not to represent, but to show myself like I am. I could do quite a lot, even a little bit stuttering. I do not want to have a replacement or a representative. If I wanted to have so, I would say so then. There could be a legal replacement. But right now I see the danger that others took advantage of it. And again, please ask back. Ask back. Yes, make something out of it. I want to know if it is really the case that I myself am something. In the follow. in the following line of something before, and I now already have it in my nose. There's something, but before I thought I'd be a talented child, and others had asked me, yes, to do something to help. And then I was too young, and the others in this place had not been even shown interest. Therefore, it simmered down, and now I don't know where I am. But right now, this is the problem here in this part of the world, and I want someone to give me a little bit income because of my author's work. It is thinking the other 10 hours and doing then 2 hours and 30 seconds this movie. Not that good, but it is, first of all, to be authentic, to be real, and to show that I'm a little bit stressed out. But if you are not one of the so-called siblings, I say so-called because I now have to question that. If you're not one of the so-called siblings and not asking back, I get angry. I'm telling a big, big story to be possible, and those are not even showing any interest. Of course you yell at, no, better don't do it. Do not yell at them. But this is me, and it is important that it is me, really, that I'm not thinking this is 100% possible not to be made up artificially, and even that is not that good. My mothers deserve better, and I hope at one time in life I can show dignity and represent something, and this could be done still now. Maybe not as you desired if you are someone in leadership, but it is rather me looking for people, and this had been my specialty, who are overlooked. Yes, I mean the real talents, sometimes in this country I think it is rather often, are overlooked. I'm not saying that I want to have the crazy ones. I do not want to have the disabled. And I cannot change that. Yes, talented people are there and no one is caring. But maybe someone is. But please do not bring me people who are talented. This is a thing in itself. I wanted to be in Switzerland, but then there had been demands I could not meet. Therefore, it went apart, and it had been with other parts as well. This another thing to be considered, the fitting in the right environment. Therefore, building up an environment of its own kind. This now I understand is there, and there is not the acceptance that any law can bring me apart from what my forefathers earned. This law would then be communists' law, and I do not need to say that the system that is called distribution of wealth is ridiculous. Of course, you need a little bit to start. It is not good to have it, but it is ridiculous to think about a system where it is distributed, like in a children's homes, and then to have success. There had been discussions, and I was in it myself. Theoretically, you could, if everyone would work nevertheless, you could do it. But this is a discussion on a theoretical basis. And there's hindrance that maybe it is there to bring me to stuttering, but I have no proof. This is conspiracy theory. But my mother said there had been hindrance. Without any conspiracy, it is not possible. Who could have conspired? Could it be something because people said so? Please don't believe it. But please do not put me on the other side. I want to stay free and to have respect as I had before shown. Luckily, people have been interested in my little being. I had been not only in one place, in a leadership country, in another. I had been staying there and we discussed the building of greens in a land rather sandy, with sand, with more sand than green spots. And I think this is another country. And then a third one, they had been already near the river, greens. I mean grass and shrubs and trees. Please help me not to be of a disappoint again. I mean to be of a disappointing part, to disappoint the whole idea, I mean, to find out what my fulfillment is, to meet the expectations I wanted to meet. Yes, people talked about me being a future leader in the 70s, in the early 70s. And then I learned, in this land, it is not done that you get what you deserve. It is if you're fitting in. You understand? I had to accept it. The new so-called democratic system, oh, it is so-called, yes, of course, so-called, is supporting someone else, and then again someone else. And now understanding it is not even the democratic system that is to blame. Or is it? Is it someone understanding the banking system? Is it someone understanding my name and then pretending to be me? Maybe having the same front name, first name. I'm not calling myself Preußen. I'm not doing that. I'm Friedrich, and then there is so-called a civil name, two civil names, and the name not even being used is Urban, of my mother and my father. But I took, or I was given, I did not take, I was given the other name, more unknown, of Papa. And it was falsely said I could change it. Yes, I can, but maybe not where I'm living right now. This is not the whole world. Lucky, this is not the whole world. I like the tradition of the German Reich and the French, Polish, not called Polish before, but now Polish, and Baltic and Denmark and so on. But I had good memories, and I'm still having much respect for the good, reliable relationships to the so-called semi-arid, the desert countries. And this is, I don't know if it is not wanted or it did not work out, because the demands in the system are a little bit different. I said that again, it looks like being lame, but think about it. It is a schooling system that wants to give everyone the same possibility. And if you give everyone the same chance, you lose those who have other other potentials, and therefore not special care in the sense of being sick, but special care, and I didn't have it. Special care to support it in some other way. And now remember, and this again is not good, my mother said, and she was called demented. She said there had been a contract between 3 states. It could have been an eastern state, and yes, of course, it had been an eastern state, and a western one, and a third one. And there, a good education had been in the text, in the writing. And I overheard someone said, everything is good in the education. I did not even see the contract. I asked with the Chancellor, with the Bundeskanzleramt, and I got no answer. I don't think it is a good education to be in the mainstream. I want this to be fulfilled, and I want to do the education myself, to have the money to go to a private teaching, or to do the contract work myself, to have private teachers. Of course, if it is something especially for me, I want to do it privately. And it is no use to point to my age. What age? If you can grow to 100, 120 years, hopefully good medicine will make that possible. Then of course I have many, many decades in front. Or do you think politicians are already wanting you to die out before the age of 100? Please help me. If you are in the position, if you can do so. But if not, even the interest is worth a lot. Please do not be ashamed. There are parts in Russia where $100 would give you a whole month of income. Therefore, please then don't do anything. If you have that and you can survive. But here in Europe, some people have 5,000 a month or 10,000 a month. And I think if you have that netto as the income then in your pocket, and you have not too much for your flat and for your other things, you could please 10, 20 or more. And this is important. Ask back how far it will bring me or what result I could get. And if the state wants to support me, please, there is possibility to do it for the remembrance of totalitarianism and fascism. Something in the nobility system had been fascists-like, not everything. There are many, many differences. And sometimes it had been against those with a special character. My mother had been quite strong. And think about a woman, maybe she had been Victoria Louisa. Is there something written down somewhere? I could give you more inside knowledge. My mother sometimes said she was of quite a problem to the strict rules back then. I think she said, you are like me. It gave me a problem. Yes, but it is no excuse. She didn't give it as an excuse. I should be more calm and more sensitive and so on, but I'm not that dangerous as it is looking right now in the false, therefore I say false paperwork. I'm not saying it is deliberate. I'm not allowed to do so. Important for you to understand. This is very much of importance. I cannot trust a system that is not willing to correct itself. It is a shame that I think people are waiting me to go before the court. I don't do it. There are many, many fields in the world where there had been the expectation, even in Japan and in China. Of course, if I had the possibility, I would go there with an own plane, with a very own airplane. I wasn't in a big one myself. Yes, once, with another pilot. Yes, you don't know about it. I didn't know beforehand. I had a little bit training. Then it was not planned. And it's important that some people thought I could fly because there had been an ancestor and he had been a knight and he was quite known, but he had enemies in his red plane. Or had he been a relative? Or was it only a saying? And this is very sad as well. Much had been burned. And then people do not talk anymore about ancestry inside the military field. And I'm not against, I'm not anti. I'm not anti-military only because I do not like the military-like reenactment play style. The military had been civil, and then in the military very sufficient. And this is not a contradiction. This is not a contradiction at all. Others are that strict and have very, very strong rules. Maybe it is to stay alive. Strong, I mean heavy burdened rules. It looked to me that way. Maybe it is to keep himself or herself alive. Of course, the style had been different, but I mean, it is important to be efficient, to have very good equipment. There those worked, had it civil, in a civil production as well. And it had been important, even back then, in the 19th century, but till now it had been legendary. No understanding is of importance, and even understanding, I don't know what it's about, people after money. Yes, I'm not against it, to collect it, but the collection should be in the hands of those being the owners. What is, if it is there? First the documents, then something about it. And the documents should be there, not only in one regard, but in maybe 100. And this is not exaggeration. This is legendary, and I did not know before. I say again, politicians sometimes look like crooks, going there and saying you could have known before, and because you only come today, it is now outdated. This is ridiculous. You can't go somewhere and ask, and it is never outdated. The address is the same, like 1971 onward. And you cannot run from one place to another and ask. You can do that. This is molestation. Therefore, please do it on your own. If you know something, write to me, and then it can be sorted out, mathematically, of course. And some assets could be in use But it should be accepted that some then won't be in use of those who only administering. And I heard complaints, and in that case it had been about another thing. Yes, my mother had been counseling for others. I really don't know if there's something, but I suspect. And it had been that it had been in the care. I think in colonies, someone else had the mine. I think it had been diamonds. And the mining business had been allowed to pay the workers, and then the state to use something. I don't know who that was exactly. It had been somewhere north of South Africa, and it had been done as good as possible, I hope. I'm not saying I have a gold mine. I don't know anything, but it could be. I once heard about it and I saw it, and someone said so, but I need documents. I don't know. It is never outdated. You cannot go to a club and say, hey, fellow pub member, you have there a gold mine. And then two witnesses, and then it is outdated after 1 or 2 years. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous to think about that. Yeah, they had been asking, what do you do with the castle? And I thought another of the saying, yeah, what do you do with that, what you will at one day have from your uncle? And you say, I give it to the church because you think the other then will leave you alone. You have never made a contract to give it to the church. And something like this could be already going on. There had been the saying, it had been a legendary telling, that I think not the brothers had not any inheritance. Those died, and it went to the left brother. That was legendary, and I think it is true. The others went to the convent, and then the church demanded and took it without asking back. Yes, it was sometimes done that way, that government gave it to the church without even doing anything to ask if it is right or not. Please prevent something like that. I'm not saying that this is only, for example, possible. And with a colony, there had been private possessions. It is not robbed. This is ridiculous. The land sold it. Colonies had people that moved there and that had bought the land at the ordinary price or not. Nowadays, people go there and say everything with colonization had been wrong. No, it isn't. And it is the same with the rivers and the beaches. I'm not saying that I am in favor of selling everything, but I overheard that even memorials have been sold from German cities to private hands. You can't go there and take it back without doing anything. I heard in the DDR, in middle parts of Germany, there is no one. What? No one is... yes, this is the thinking. That no one is there wanting to have it. This is not right. You ought to look for the inheritance parties, for the successors. You should look there. It had been a private saying, there is no one, or we look for no one. You understand? I see the danger. Now feeling this could be my unknown, what had happened. Yes, it had been the papers, it had been conspiracy theories, but it had been done. I do not want it to be that difficult. Therefore, understand it is not good not to be able to be a land developer. We did it on behalf of others, in mining business and in others, and in others' circumstances. If there are dishonest politicians, those won't tell you everything. Therefore, it is now an open questioning to know what is there, not that politicians think we don't tell and then he's not interested. I am interested in everything. And I'm interested, first of all, in private funding, even from states like cities, state entities like cities and others. Of course, the expectation is there to do something, but I'm ashamed. For example, Florida already said, if that could be, then please, we need someone. No, Florida not, but someone there. Florida has no voice. The governor could maybe, but I don't know who that was. On the table, no, it had been in the pub, in a cafe. That I said, I heard that it could be the marshland. Someone said to me, the marshland. And somewhere. And then you go where there is much and unused marshland. Is it Florida? I had been there asking what to do, but no one said it is on property. I want to know, otherwise you have no excuse that I don't do anything. But if I do anything, I would do it merchant-like, economic-like. You can have an idea and then it will pay off much later, but you don't do it without the background to have a livelihood out of it. If it is not for you, then for others. You can expect everywhere a factory, but to have the possibility to do a thing and not knowing. But I remember I saw maps. But why did no one say, it is mine? No, it cannot go out of hand. Otherwise, no one will do anything. If then by itself you use it, it's not possible. This address had been the same as back then, when there had been the asking what to do out of it. Back then, as a child, my idea had been to use it for holidays, recreational purposes. I remember the marshland there, to use it for recreational purposes. I want to know, of course I could sell a little bit and use the income to develop the other part. But I can't if I don't know. Therefore, this is openly again the asking, is there something? Why am I kept in the dark? You see, cities and communities should ask. Yeah, why did there back then came an asking? It had been a businessman who took it with him. Had he been sneaky and then taking it in his own pockets, this would be illegal. I had been a child, okay? As a child, you say, okay, uncle or father or what name I used, but he had been not the legal father. I don't need that many. Not knowing what development is. With the age, maybe it was 10 years, no, 6 years. I don't know, I am after something else. But I now remember, it must have been there. And this would have been very sneaky, very much. If this man, I thought he had been a man, had then been taken it. This is very sneaky, and I'm not even interested to go there if such an enemy is there. Because it is an enemy who is then in between not asking. This is not possible to be regarded as honest. Yes, it could well have been a sneaky politician to go to a child to show him a map, and then never again. I now remember there had been a map, Florida, I think, somewhere there. I don't know how big the land had been. Had it been counseling with my mother and those came to me? Yes, really, at the age, I think, 1970, 74, 73, 74. This would be sneaky, of course illegal as well. But I have only the remembrance about something. Maybe it had been a land in the shape of Florida, okay? This could as well. It had been something like half an island. Someone had been there and asking, what can we do about it? This is no contract. Please. But hopefully he was not tricked. I don't think so. Who could do such a thing? Who could do such a thing? Someone else? It is again clear that a church brother is not a brother. Even back then I did say, okay, you need a brother, then do it. You say nearly anything, everything. You hear others say. You know, there's a piece in the garden. This is your land, 1 meter in square, 1 meter to 1 meter. There you, yes, it really had been the case. I had to work the ground. Salad and radish. I was growing there. And then you hear about land where the mosquitoes are and crocodiles and snakes. Of course, I said, you can have it for the people who like it dangerous. But it is sneaky. If that had been real possession, and it is even more sneaky, it would have helped me to find out about my father. Therefore, please take it seriously. Maybe this will be the headline. Suspicion that there had been land in Florida. 3 hours, 3 seconds, and the beginning I leave there, but it was boring, and still is boring, but now I'm awake and very overtired. We have 9:45, and you can imagine it is at night time. I started. My name is Friedrich. I have not the surname Preußen, and I'm not an enemy of Preußen, but I was raised differently because of all I already, and only a little bit of it, I wanted to explain you. And when I say sneaky, it is according to my high standard. For others it is not sneaky not to tell. For others, those are my hands. I would have kept my hands clear from the suspicion to take something, but with others it is, oh, if he is not wanting to have it. With me, I'd like to have it very much without even the chance to accuse me of having taken something with trickery. This is a little bit different with merchants standing at marketplace, but it is because of my raising of the high demand. But it is of course a little bit telling I'm good. But I heard it before that this is a high standard I can underline, but please do not accept that I'm a communist. I'm no communist, but I want to help people who are otherwise not having the chance. But people came and there have been many disabled. Yes, really. One after the other. You understand this is not possible. Being a little bit in demand myself, I need a little bit someone who is able. I cannot, in the wilderness, for example, do the woodwork and then go hunting and then as well do other stuff that is bodily demanding, and the other is sitting in a wheelchair. This would be too much. You understand? I could do it in case of emergency, but I wouldn't plan it that way. And this is important to understand, that I will find people who are like me. I'm clear about, I'm sure. Yes, I would find them, but you will find them there where others can see that there is that there is the potential, that there is something. But now I see the potential myself, and if now others are coming, of course I'm suspicious. But maybe there is an explanation, okay? This is possible as well. Thank you very much.